curry powder. Now, this is something that's going to have a distinct smell, and it might stick around for a little while, but when you put this in certain meals, it's a very tasty thing. But funny thing is that if you're like me, had it been at least over last week, you would have thought you just buy curry powder in the store and then that's it. But then afterwards, I learned that there is actually a few recipes you can find online on how to make your own curry powder at home. Because you don't buy curry powder, you buy all the individual ingredients, combine it together, and then you get this beauty. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make it from start to finish. And it's actually pretty simple. Oh yeah, and full disclosure, yes, someone had pointed out that there's multiple recipes for curry powder out there where you could do a whole variety of them, but I'm not going to cover all the grounds. I'm just showing you how to do a basic one to start off with, and then eventually, maybe we can explore elsewhere. So on that note, let's get right to this. So first ingredient you're going to need is coriander, which is actually an ingredient I didn't think you would use in this sort of recipe. So you need about 2 tablespoons worth of ground coriander. And I actually got lucky because that was the remainder of my jar at home, so it means I'm gonna have to go buy some again and use that for the future. Coriander, you will know, I use that mostly for my steak spice. I'm doing the Montreal style steak seasoning, and if you want to revisit that, I'm gonna put a link in the top right corner for you to watch it. Now they would say that you need to use ground coriander, but what I have over here are coriander seeds. So the easiest thing that you could do is just grab yourself a mortar and a pestle and then just ground it up for a little bit until it's flattened up. You don't have to worry about making it into a powdery dust. You just have to make sure that it's a bit more spreadable and easier to blend. Well, this thing is going to be ground up as best as possible without having to use a grinder or like a coffee grinder to get this all up, so we're good to go. So what you would do next is you would just want to make sure that you have this all transported into a jar. Just like so. And I'm using a strainer to make sure that I don't have any waste. Now, mortar and pestle be kept aside. So once we have all this done, the rest of it is just very straightforward. You just have to add all your other ingredients and then you're good to go. Next is going to be 2 tablespoons of cumin. I feel like that cumin is a kind of spice that I used in the past for a specific recipe, but I didn't actually use it very regularly in my cooking, or in all my spice mixes for that matter, so it's almost like making up for lost time. Okay, I think I got practically 2 tablespoons. There. And then you just throw it in here. Next thing you're going to need is turmeric. And it's very distinct because it has a very fluorescent yellow color. And I feel like that anything I cook with, there's always going to be residual for this. And it's not too much. You're just going to need like maybe 1.5 tablespoons of that in your jar. But yeah, seriously, cook with this stuff. Check your pan, check your containers that you have it in, and then you'll see it's going to be yellow for quite a while. I heard it's supposed to be good for you, but I don't even know the exact benefits of it. I just remember my mom used to like put in all her cooking in the last few years. Now, what's going to be up next? Okay, cumin, coriander, turmeric. We're on to something else here. Ground ginger. And you're going to need about a good 2 teaspoons worth of that stuff. Ginger overload. Well, I'm going to have to do some cleanup here. Damn it. Oh well, it's not the worst thing to happen. I feel like I've had other stuff explode, things falling on. Very funny, very funny. Sigh. Sometimes you just can't win them all. Your next ingredient is going to be something simple, dry mustard, which you only really need to use 1 teaspoon worth. Again, a lot of these things are stuff that I have already in my pantry, but I don't necessarily use them all the time. The dry mustard for me is obviously going to be for whenever I do a beer can chicken, because it's part of the spice mix I use to put it on before I get it on the grill. And yes, I did that earlier in the year too, like close to summertime, so once again, I'll put a card in the top right corner for you to watch that. I've done it a few times on the channel, but I thought revisit it with current production values, so that's the video that I would recommend. And I did this for practical reasons too with the mustard, because it's the only one of the spices I have left where I have to scoop it out of a jar as opposed to just letting it pour. There you go. So what's up next? Ooh, now this is something that you probably see people using in their cooking for spices. I don't use it very often, but I can understand why. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. It's funny, because when I think cinnamon, I always think adding something like that to your coffee or your lattes, or adding that to a dessert. Making this a seasoning for what will be some meat or rice, I never would have guessed. But here we are today. This thing is looking good. So we're getting to the home stretch of the remaining ingredients. Ground black pepper is going to be up next. And in this case, wait a minute. Did I put it? Yeah, I think I only put like half a teaspoon of cinnamon instead of a full teaspoon. Damn. So let's just add a little bit to correct that. There, problem solved. So ground black pepper is going to be up next. And unlike all the other ones, you really only need like half a teaspoon worth of that to get some spice. And speaking of spice, there is another one that you can use, cayenne pepper. Although that could be optional because some people don't really have a tolerance for a spice, and cayenne is definitely out of the question. There, half a teaspoon worth of that. Again, it's optional, but if you want to do that for a little bit of extra kick, go for it. Okay, let's seal up my pepper. And then the last one is going to be cardamom. I don't know too much about this spice. And honestly, before I made this thing, my only experience with it was when I was having some tea from David's Tea. There was a cardamom one with a whole bunch of other, I think, herbs and spices in it. It kind of felt like it was a very like heavy, hearty kind of a tea, which I guess would have been perfect for wintertime. I can't quite put the scent on my finger, but we'll just use it. And this you're only going to need maybe half a teaspoon worth of it too, and then you throw it in the jar. A little bit of rejuvenation. So once you have all your ingredients in your jar, and you clean up your mess, which I'm going to do afterwards, you just have to seal it up, and then you give it a good shake. So it's probably not easy to see on camera, but I'll give you a close-up. All the spices are all layered on in here. It's almost like that potpourri sand that you would do when you were in grade school, and you would just put those together and make a little glass jar with a whole bunch of layers of colored sands. But it's not going to be like this the whole time. You just got to give it a really good shake to blend it all in. There you go. And once you give that shake, you have curry powder. Yep, this is another seasoning that is very easy to do. Like you could do your own curry powder, steak spice, Greek salad seasoning. Oh yeah, it's a good one. Top right corner to watch that because that is a really nice flavorful one without having any trace of salt in there. And speaking of salt, with this, you have all this flavored seasoning without any excess salt too. Because that's the thing I've always mentioned about store-bought seasonings. You're gonna have a lot of them which will have white flakes in there. Those are all your salt grains because salt is a cheap filler material. But when you have it yourself, you can control how much salt is in here. Oh. Now this smells heavenly. I'm really clearing the indigestion, clearing the sinuses. Perfect cleanup. And there you have it, curry's powder for you right at home. So thanks for watching this episode, and if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Cheers, everyone.